Hi, my name's Jerbitis, and today I'll be reading an Ask Reddit thread from August 9th, entitled Redditors Who Left Companies That Nonstop Talk About Their Amazing Culture. What was the cringe moment that made you realize you had to get out? And in this series, I'll be not only mentioning the authors of each post, I'll also be mentioning the amount of upvotes and occasionally reading comments below that might be funny or might add to the conversation. So with that being said, let's get started. This is from Bear Rito with 25,000 upvotes. I'm in management and we just got this message that bonuses for the last financial year were severely cut across the business, probably going to receive 30% of our total potential at best. Then attended our final end-of-year results meeting the next day to be told that net profits were 18% up, nearly 1 billion total, and the best performance in years, all thanks to us. Okay, planning on leaving now. Someone below him, named Inertia's Creep, with 27,000 upvotes, more than the original, he says, OMG, I went through the same thing similar in about 2000. I was working for a financial firm, 1,800 employees with a sales force of 200. I was one of the salesmen. We had our annual meeting in April. It was a big affair. Most of the employees attended and the CEO gave a big speech about how the previous year was the best in the company's history, blah blah blah. The next month, May, we each submitted memos basically justifying why we were qualified for, or should be qualified for, bonuses at the end of June. I wrote mine out and explained the sales growth in my territory over the course of the previous 12 months and what percentage of my sales were out of last year's total sales. Coming off the company's best year ever, it should have been a slam dunk, right? All of us were excited about how much we'd have coming in June. June rolls around and my bonus is zero. Zero! But it's not just me, it's all over the sales floor. Less than 20% of the sales force got bonuses, and holy shit, everyone was pissed. All the supervisors were dealing with angry subordinates, the sales manager was too, and even the VP and director above him. Everyone was furious and insubordinate. Angry accusatory emails were flying, and the company was facing a mutiny. It got worse when it came out that the supervisors were offered bonuses that they could determine for themselves. Most of them took them, but a couple, knowing their subordinates wouldn't be getting any, refused. My supervisor took his. When it came out, he tried to explain to his sales team about how he felt it was justified and how hard he'd worked. He ended up with people screaming at him about how they felt the same, but they didn't get jack shit. So for about a week, things came to a stop on the floor. A lot of people just didn't show up, and the ones that did were angry. I came in and started reading Monster.com ads at my desk. I also stopped selling anything or answering my phone. When confronted by my boss, I told him that as soon as I get the bonus my sales justified, I'd start working again. Until then, I'd be coming in late, reading and responding to want ads, and leaving early. He could expect me to keep that up until I found another job or was fired. The following day, I was sent to the regional sales manager's office. She said she'd heard about my work stoppage and asked me to explain myself. I told her that if she heard about it from my supervisor, then she already knew why I wasn't working and I didn't need to explain it again. She tried buddying up to me, being friendly, then being stern, then being angry. I kept my composure and told her that the longer the company held out on my bonus, the longer it was gonna miss out on sales from my territory. I then gave her my average daily amount of sales from the previous year, quantified what the total loss would be for a week of me not selling, and how much cheaper it would be just to pay me the money I was owed and getting me back to selling. Then I thanked her for her time and told her I'd be leaving work as soon as I left her office. And I did. The following day I came in, checked my emails, some of which were farewell emails from coworkers who quit over their stolen bonuses, and sat on Monster.com until I was told to go to the office of the national sales manager. He's the gatekeeper. He's in charge of all 200 of us. He told me that he understood I was upset and could see why. I asked him if withholding the bonuses from 80% of his sales force was his idea or someone else's. He didn't answer. He did tell me that I would be getting a check on Monday, and could I please go back to work now? I told him I'd be getting back to my desk, but wouldn't work until the check was in my hand. When I went back and checked my emails, yep, more defections. The next day, an email went out to the entire sales force. Management had taken a look at the numbers, reevaluated the financials, and determined that June bonuses would be issued shortly. The email also apologized for the delay and reminded us that as salesmen, We were the core of the company and our hard work was appreciated. I also received another email, this time from the national sales manager, who told me while bonuses were scheduled for Monday, he'd be walking my check to my desk the following day. The following day I showed up, sat down, and shortly after, the national sales manager walked up and handed me my bonus check. I thanked him and handed him my resignation effective immediately. In my resignation letter, I requested that a check for my unused vacation time please be cut and given to me before I left the building. When he finished reading it, I told him I'd clean my desk out while I waited for the vacation check. While I was doing that, one of my coworkers also resigned effective immediately. We were walking out at the same time and ended up getting drunk at a bar across the street. I later learned from my coworkers that remained that even though the company issued the bonuses, they lost about 20% of the sales force in the following 2 months. Gotta love corporate greed. Going down a bit farther, this is a story from Red Kinoko with 16,000 upvotes. Not my company, but a company from a neighboring building. They had an entire area devoted to foosball, pinball, billiards, console gaming, and videoke booths on the ground floor, and it was clearly visible because of the glass windows on the street level. Oddly enough, nobody ever used them, and the place was almost always empty save for a few people who used the internet kiosks. When I met a friend who worked there, I asked why nobody would take the opportunity to use the awesome-looking recreational facility. He told me that people who do use the facility often found it against them during performance evaluations, even when their use wasn't excessive at all. After a while, word got around, and eventually they all started avoiding the place altogether. The irony is that the recruitment ads always tout a culture of work hard, play hard. Here's another story. This one's by Baconated Grapefruit. This has 10,000 upvotes. My last job was at an independent school in the UK, the wealthy type. During a period of streamlining, the entire faculty was called into the hall and told, in upbeat terms, that we were struggling to make ends meet. Salaries were too high, perks were too abundant, and spending was unsustainable. For clarity, salaries weren't too high, and perks were practically non-existent. Spending was definitely unsustainable, however, in part because they were spending hundreds of thousands redesigning the senior staff's offices to hide all the cabling and install proper wood paneling. So then they started listing off perks and assigning them a value. For example, free parking. Well, no shit, the school has a lot of land and it isn't in a city. Why would you charge? Secondly, nice surroundings. Well, again, no shit, that's part of your marketing appeal. Long holidays, nice try, but I work all holidays. They didn't even get as far as telling me what they planned to do with my job and pay. I was gone in less than 3 months. Below, someone asks, how do you even spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on cable management? How? Baconated Grapefruit replies, oh ho, this is the good bit. The cable management itself wasn't the problem. The problem was that in order to hide it, they skinned and plastered all of the walls to hide the trunking, thus shrinking the rooms by a few inches. I shit you not. Multiply this by a dozen offices or so, new carpets because the room is smaller, so why not change the fucking carpet at the same time? Custom cut paneling and whatever the hell else they fancied splashing out on. And all as a branding initiative so parents, during their one-to-one meetings, wouldn't feel so aggravated at the newly increased cost of sending their child to our school. In other news, independent schools are toxic work environments. A few posts down, this is from NSDR1709 with 10,000 upvotes. We, the management team, spent months working with a business coach trying to collectively come up with meaningful core values. We devoted a lot of time to it and really tried to decide which direction we wanted to take the company culture. Everybody agreed on teamwork, reliability, and a couple of others that I can't remember now, and then one day the owner came in and called a meeting. He sat us down in the boardroom and told us he spent all weekend brainstorming and had decided on the core values. They were meaningful, ownership, neighborhood, engagement, you. Does anybody else see what that spells? He literally wanted it to be an acronym for money and just came up with words that sort of worked. Kind of like the way you do in elementary school writing your name poem. He rebranded the entire company from t-shirts with giant letters and small letters for the rest of the word down straight of the arms, to plaques, wraps on cars, every fucking thing. And that's when we all knew it was about to get bad. Money is great, but it was mortifying walking/driving around with that plastered everywhere. This story is from Design Goddess with 5,700 upvotes. When I was asked to sleep with a potential client. Below is an edit. The rest of the story. At the time I was in my early 20s. I'm female. My boss, the business owner, always told us that he thought of the office as one big family. He also referred to the female employees as his girls. A new client is coming into the office. My boss called me into his office and told me he was going to give me the credit card from the company so I could take the potential new client out for dinner and drinks. He told me to sleep with him. We need this client if everyone wants to get paid. Nice added pressure. I said no and quit the next day. A couple of months earlier, my boss had invited me over to his house for dinner with his family and a swim in his pool because he said he knew how hard I'd been working. I was a little surprised that he finally noticed and thought it was kind of nice that he wanted to do something like that for me. I get there and his wife and kids are gone, but there's a 25-year-old guy in his pool, the son of a client who just got out of the army. He told me he was trying to fix me up on a date because I needed to get out more. Like an idiot I am, I believed him. It wasn't until later I realized that he was hoping I'd show more interest in the guy. I found out later that he had asked all female employees at one point to sleep with clients. The secretary actually did. She was a young, single mom, and she was worried she'd be fired if she said no. After I quit, she told me she wished she had the option to quit. I didn't realize what she was saying until we talked later. At the time, his daughter was around 4 years old. When I quit, I asked him how old his daughter would have to be before he asked her to sleep with clients. I thought he was going to hit me. I have 1,000 stories about working at this place. This guy was an unethical idiot, a dangerous combination. But I learned a lot about how to not run a business from him. I've owned my own business for 30 years now. I've never asked any employees to sleep with clients, or even go out for drinks. I had the benefit of growing up in a family with money. I wasn't earning much, and would probably not have been able to quit and move without the assistance of my parents. I never told them what happened. When I told my dad I quit, he was happy. You hated that place. Now that I'm older and times have changed, I would know what to do. I would hope he'd face the consequences. Today, this isn't considered a regular part of business. #MeToo wasn't a thing back then. No one really cared. This was the only time I was directly asked to sleep with a client, but not the only time I faced sexual harassment at work. It was so common for me and my friends that when we pushed back together against it, we felt like we were really on the leading edge of changing work environments for women. I guess we were, but sad that we needed to be. I certainly hoped women didn't face this anymore, but the recent news set me straight on that. This is another post by Ordinary Panda with 4,000 upvotes. When attending a management retreat and was pressured into buying charity raffle tickets that I couldn't afford, $20. The two people who won before me donated their winnings to the same charity they bought the raffle tickets from. They were middle management pissing match people who make $100,000 plus a year. I made $32,000 with a young daughter. I won a drawing for $400. I literally had nausea for 2 days trying to figure out how I was going to pay for my bills after my job had just moved the goalpost on some sales performance bonuses I had coming my way, dropping it effectively from $1,000 to $200. Now I'm the asshole who's going to keep the money I won. Guess I'm not a team player. Bonus, this was a 4-hour drive from home. Had an overnight stay, and one of those middle management fucks in an example of what should be on or off the clock said we shouldn't be paid for the drive to the retreat. Fuck you. I was on the clock from the time I left Friday until I got home Sunday. If you're forcing me to be somewhere as part of my job, it's all on the clock. My district manager didn't like that, and I was already looking for the door. Cowabunga, with 600 upvotes, comments below him. Did you still get paid, or did your manager not like it, meaning you didn't see a dime for that weekend? Ordinary Panda replies, yeah, I got paid. I was a manager, so I could enter payroll myself. At that point, he'd have to alter it after the fact, and that'd mean he'd have to write up a justification, and that would be on record if Department of Labor ever poked around. I knew that they'd find a way to get it back out of me somewhere. That's why I knew before I entered it I was essentially done. This next story is from Extraterritorial Eve with 3,500 upvotes. My last job was for a large cinema chain. The incentive of working there was free movies and great culture with the colleagues. This seemed great on paper, but there were 5 pillars of the company, a newish thing since they were bought out, one of them being fun. Now, I worked at one of the largest branches in the company with 50-ish employees at the time. Every morning before we opened the doors, the managers would make us huddle together like a football team and give us our morning pep talk. Alright, listen up guys, today is gonna be great! We've got the new X movie and whoever sells most of Y promotional item gets a free soda drink. Woo! Go, go, go! It's gonna be amazing. Can you top this week's record for best reviews? Whoever gets the most good reviews today gets a free popcorn. Whoa! Man, I hated it so much. No one cared, but they preached this speech at the beginning of every shift change despite every single employee being completely deadpan. It was like a school care worker trying to get adults to play bricks and build the tallest tower. Awful. Someone comments below him, "You had to earn soda? When I worked at Cinemark, we got free soda and popcorn during breaks or after a shift. It probably cost them 15 cents for a soda and popcorn." Extraterritorial Eve replies, "Yep, sometimes if we were on a closing shift until 3 a.m., they'd give us a free drink to boost our sugar. They stopped doing that a year before I left, though." This is in the UK, to clarify, not America. This one's from Marty McBlart with 2,000 upvotes. Pizza Hut. Where will Pizza Hut take you? During the interview, I was told, "The work is hard, but we feel like family, and we can always bitch about the bad customers after a shift." The people there were horrible. The managers made you do 2 people's job for less money. I was paid minimum wage for my age, which was $4 an hour, and the company purposefully brought on 16-year-olds for that reason. I was also told that they didn't have enough money to pay me, so my shift was canceled. I was told I'd be paid to complete my training, and I wasn't. Our managers would fling the corks of Prosecco bottles at waitresses to make them scared. There would be regular breakdowns from cooks and waiters. I would regularly get screamed at in front of the whole restaurant for silly things like the knives and forks not being straight enough, even though they would leave me by myself, as in I was the only waiter still working, 1 week after my first shift. The waitresses would always bitch about the other people in the restaurant and would shout at me for asking questions, even on my first day. At one point, an outside chef was brought in from a different restaurant, and he didn't realize he had to wash up cutlery because he doesn't have to at his place, so it's an entirely separate job. So we ran out of cutlery, and 2 more experienced waitresses, instead of helping me and washing up the cutlery or teaching me how to do it myself, would just hoard the cutlery, so it was me that would run out, then my manager would have another go at me. Fuck that place. And those are all the comments I'm going to read today. Thank you once again for your time. I really appreciate you, sitting through and listening to all of this. And if you have any suggestions for different subreddits or different threads for me to read through, go ahead and leave a comment below. I'd super appreciate it. And if you have any ideas for any ways to improve this entire series, just go ahead and leave a comment and I'll be sure to reply to as many as I can. But once again, thank you so much. See ya.